The morning sunlight cut through the towering glass walls of Pinnacle Tech Solutions headquarters, scattering across polished marble floors like shards of gold. Maya Williams stepped out of the elevator, her heels clicking with measured confidence, her tablet clutched tightly against her chest. Today was supposed to be a routine presentation, just another showcase of the revolutionary network security protocol she had developed over the last 6 months. Yet she knew better than to expect calm. Director Sanders' presence always meant unpredictability, and she had learned to anticipate his subtle and not so subtle attacks. As she approached the main conference room, the scent of strong coffee and expensive leather furniture mingled in the air. The room buzzed softly with the hum of air conditioning and quiet conversations among executives. Maya's pulse quickened slightly, not from fear but from the clarity of focus that always preceded her presentations. She set her tablet down on the sideboard and began arranging printed handouts for the executives, placing them in precise stacks, each with a pen and a water bottle. Every detail mattered. This was her battlefield, and she had trained for it relentlessly. The first to enter was Director Thompson, a man whose expression was always carefully neutral, but whose eyes betrayed an undercurrent of amusement when it came to Maya. He exchanged a smirk with Director Sanders, who followed immediately, leaning back slightly with a self-satisfied grin. Sanders' reputation as the gatekeeper of Pinnacle's Old Boys Club was notorious. He surveyed Maya with an evaluative stare, one that tried to read not just her professional competency but her perceived social worth in a room he controlled. "Good morning, Ms. Williams," Sanders said, his voice smooth but tinged with condescension. "I trust you've prepared something. Digestible for us today?" He let the words hang, a loaded pause meant to unsettle. "I'm ready," Maya replied, her voice calm, steady, professional. She did not flinch, even as a few other executives shifted their weight and exchanged knowing glances. The conference room door opened again, and Director Rodriguez entered, his phone discreetly recording the proceedings under the guise of checking messages. Maya's eyes flicked briefly toward him, a subtle acknowledgement passing between them. Rodriguez gave a slight nod as if to say, "I'm observing." 2. CEO Davis arrived last, his gait quick and purposeful, though his eyes barely met Maya's. "Let's make this efficient," he muttered, scanning the room with detached authority. "We have pressing matters after this presentation." Maya inhaled, centering herself. She opened her tablet and projected the first slide onto the main screen, a clean, professional dashboard showing her proprietary security protocol. The data visualization was sleek, intuitive, and immediately conveyed the potential for millions in annual savings. "As I was saying," Maya began, "the new security algorithm reduces intrusion attempts by identifying behavioral anomalies in real time. Our trial data over the last 3 months shows a 72% reduction in attempted breaches, translating into approximately 11.8 million in avoided losses annually." Sanders' head tilted slightly, his smirk widening. "Interesting numbers, but I have to ask, did someone help you with this? I wouldn't want to think our diversity hire." Overreached. His use of air quotes was precise, meant to draw laughter. A few executives chuckled quietly, while others pretended to scroll through their tablets. Maya ignored the jab. "All calculations are independently verified," she said, advancing the slide. "Our existing system fails to detect 21% of intrusions, whereas this protocol reduces that failure rate to 6%. The methodology, source code, and statistical analysis have been documented in full compliance with industry standards." Thompson whispered something to Sanders, prompting a short, dismissive laugh. "Technical, yes, but let's not bore ourselves," Sanders said, leaning forward. "I'd like you to explain, in layman's terms, why anyone would care about an $11.8 million figure. Couldn't someone simpler, someone less ambitious figure this out?" Maya straightened, voice smooth and controlled. "Director Sanders, the impact is straightforward. Reduced breaches translate directly to cost savings, compliance adherence, and risk mitigation. These are not theoretical benefits. They are concrete outcomes." She clicked to the next slide, showing a detailed month-by-month breakdown. Sanders' smirk faltered slightly. He stood, moving deliberately toward the presentation table. "I think we've heard enough theory. Perhaps you can demonstrate its practicality." Maya met his gaze. Absolutely. Implementation scenarios are included in the documentation, she said. We can simulate live network traffic to show the system's effectiveness in real time. Sanders leaned closer, towering over her, his presence intentionally imposing. We don't need a demo, he said, his voice low and measured. We need reassurance. Reassurance that someone like you, someone so inexperienced in corporate protocol, can handle this responsibility. He reached out, picking up a glass of water from the sideboard. Maya's heart skipped a beat, though she maintained her composure. In one swift motion, Sanders tilted the glass toward her, spilling the contents across her tablet, the handouts, and her meticulously arranged pens. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Coffee-colored liquid seeped into the edges of the printed documents, ruining hours of preparation. Oh my, Sanders exclaimed, feigning surprise. How clumsy of me. Perhaps you should tidy this mess up before we proceed. He straightened, smirking, as a few executives chuckled awkwardly. Maya froze for a heartbeat, letting the heat rise in her cheeks, but she did not react outwardly. Her fingers moved quickly to secure the tablet and the soaked handouts, noting the deliberate capture of the incident on Rodriguez's phone. She straightened again, voice unwavering. This is unfortunate, but we can continue. I have digital backups of all materials. CEO Davis coughed lightly. Maybe a short pause, he suggested, though his tone lacked authority. No need, Sanders interjected loudly, waving him off. We've already witnessed the complications. Ms. Williams can proceed or step aside. Clean up or leave. Your choice. Maya inhaled, a controlled, deliberate breath. You've crossed a line, she thought. She glanced down at her phone under the table. A single discreet text from Nathan lit up the screen. Proceed as planned. Evidence secured. In position, she stood taller, shoulders back, and resumed the presentation. As I was explaining before the interruption, she said, her voice steady despite the dampness of her blouse. The algorithm not only mitigates intrusion attempts, but also optimizes response protocols. Every action is logged, audited, and verifiable. Executives shifted uncomfortably, some whispering to each other. Sanders' glare intensified, realizing his intended humiliation had failed to shake her composure. I appreciate your resilience, CEO Davis said cautiously, adjusting his tie. Carry on. Maya clicked through several more slides, highlighting projected savings, real-time threat interception, and compliance adherence. Her voice remained precise, authoritative, and methodical, each data point punctuated with clarity that Sanders could not undermine. Sanders attempted to regain control. Ms. Williams, let me clarify, he said sharply. This is still a theoretical exercise. What makes you think your work is implementable? Did you account for— Director Sanders, Maya interrupted smoothly. The trial accounted for all known variables, including variable network loads, user behavior anomalies, and integration with existing firewalls. The projections are based on empirical evidence, not speculation. She advanced to the final slide, showing a concise summary of operational impact. A faint murmur of approval rose among some of the junior executives. Thompson and Rodriguez exchanged glances, uncertain how to respond. Maya maintained eye contact with Sanders. Your attempt to discredit this work through intimidation has been noted, she said evenly. The documentation is complete, and the trial results are verifiable. I am prepared to implement immediately, pending executive approval. Sanders' face darkened. He leaned back, trying to mask frustration. We'll consider this, he said, voice tight. Perhaps. We will table it for now. Maya nodded politely, retrieving her digital tablet and organizing her remaining handouts. Her phone vibrated again, Nathan arriving. Stand firm. The room's atmosphere shifted as the conference room door opened, revealing Nathan Williams in a tailored navy suit, flanked by two Monarch Global executives. Every head turned, shock and confusion spreading as recognition registered. Sanders froze, his carefully constructed authority evaporating in real time. Maya? Nathan asked quietly, approaching her. Are you all right? She straightened, a subtle smile breaking through. I am now. Nathan's presence alone changed the dynamics instantly. Executives who had laughed earlier now avoided eye contact. The Monarch legal officer stepped forward, placing a stack of documents on the table. and Nathan spoke with controlled authority. Director Sanders, your actions today and over the past months have been observed and documented. You are under review for discriminatory conduct and professional misconduct, Sanders stammered, his voice a high-pitched echo of disbelief. This is a misunderstanding. Nathan's eyes were cold steel. No, Director Sanders. This is accountability. Every action you've taken has consequences, and your behavior will be addressed according to corporate and legal standards. Maya, standing beside Nathan, felt the weight of the room shift. She had endured humiliation, discrimination, and intimidation, yet in this single moment, the power dynamics inverted. Her calm authority, backed by meticulously collected evidence, had turned the tide. Rodriguez quietly slid his phone into his pocket, a silent ally now revealed. The executives who had sneered and laughed before were now silent, some pale, others shifting nervously. Sanders realized that the boardroom, once his domain of control, was no longer under his command. Maya's eyes met Nathan's, a brief but unmistakable acknowledgement passing between them. This is the beginning, and with that, the conference room, once a stage for her humiliation, became the arena where she would claim her professional and personal vindication. The echo of Sanders's stunned silence lingered in the conference room like a low hum, a subtle vibration of fear and uncertainty that had never before emanated from him. Maya remained standing, her posture impeccable, her gaze sweeping across the room as if conducting a silent audit of the boardroom's morale. The Monarch Global legal team's presence alone had shifted the room's balance, but Sanders's stubborn arrogance still bristled under the surface, ready to explode at the slightest provocation. Maya gathered her tablet and handouts, carefully replacing any that had been soaked or smudged, while her fingers moved with precise, efficient motions. Each action was deliberate, a quiet testament to the years of discipline that had honed her professional poise. Sanders, on the other side of the room, straightened his jacket and attempted a mask of composed indignation, but his clenched jaw betrayed the storm simmering inside him. Nathan remained a silent sentinel beside her, his presence commanding but unobtrusive. His eyes scanned the executives, noting subtle cues, the twitch of a finger, the way someone avoided meeting his gaze, the almost imperceptible tension in shoulders that had once been relaxed in complacency. Every detail mattered. Every moment of observation would later form part of a meticulous record. Ms. Williams, CEO Davis finally said, breaking the taut silence, perhaps we should step into a private discussion with Mr. Sanders and his team before moving forward. His tone was cautious, but there was a faint tremor beneath the surface, an awareness that the power dynamics had irrevocably shifted. Sanders bristled. Private discussion? Now? With witnesses? This is entirely inappropriate, he protested, though the authority in Davis's voice left him momentarily speechless. The Monarch executives remained silent, their posture rigid, every movement deliberate and unyielding. Maya's mind was a quiet storm of strategy and foresight. She had anticipated resistance, humiliation, and public dismissal, but she had not anticipated underestimating her own preparation. The security algorithm, meticulously documented and patented, was only the first layer of leverage. The second was evidence, recordings, logs, corroborating statements, all of which Sanders had underestimated. Let's proceed with the documentation, Nathan said finally, his voice smooth even, yet carrying a subtle undertone that brooked no argument. We've already reviewed patterns of discrimination and misconduct over the past months. Mr. Sanders's behavior today only confirms what has been systematically observed. Sanders's face flushed, a crimson tide of embarrassment and indignation. Patterns? What patterns? This is preposterous. These are isolated incidents, nothing more. Maya's lips curled into a subtle, controlled smile. Director Sanders, she said calmly, her voice resonant with authority. We have compiled 21 documented instances over the last 3 months alone. Each is verifiable with digital timestamps, eyewitness statements, and logs from our internal security systems. This is not anecdotal, a murmur ran through the room. Thompson exchanged a nervous glance with Rodriguez, who had now revealed his recording, discreetly sliding a thumb drive toward Nathan. Every executive realized that the evidence was comprehensive, unassailable, and entirely beyond the reach of casual dismissal. Sanders' usual charm, his carefully rehearsed smirk and veiled intimidation, failed utterly in the face of meticulously collected proof. "You're overstepping," Sanders growled. Voice low but dangerous, attempting to regain the upper hand. "I am a director of this company, with decades of experience in technology and management. He gestured vaguely at Maya. "You are a junior employee. How dare you question my judgment?" Maya's gaze held steady, unwavering. "Director Sanders," she replied, her tone calm, almost clinical. "I am not questioning your technical judgment. I am documenting systematic patterns of behavior that have created a hostile environment for minority employees and women in technical positions. This is a matter of professionalism, ethics, and corporate responsibility. My position or title is irrelevant to the facts." The room seemed to constrict, the air charged with tension. Sanders's usual allies remained uncomfortably silent, caught between self-preservation and loyalty. Davis shifted in his chair, realizing for the first time the extent of the disruption this would cause to his leadership team, but also understanding that ignoring it was no longer an option. Nathan's hand rested briefly on Maya's shoulder, a subtle gesture of support, unspoken yet undeniable. His presence amplified her authority, but she remained the central figure, her poise, intelligence, and determination radiating throughout the boardroom. "You expect me to believe this?" Sanders said, voice rising, "without question, without context?" "Yes," Maya answered succinctly. "I expect you to acknowledge that the evidence is not subject to personal interpretation. It exists as a record of repeated behavior, documented over time, and corroborated by multiple witnesses." Rodriguez, emboldened by the presence of Monarch executives, spoke quietly but firmly. "I recorded the incident this morning," he said, voice steady. "I was planning to report it anonymously, but with the context of repeated behavior, I believe this needs direct action." He held out his phone, displaying the recording. Sanders's face paled as he realized the full weight of his actions was now captured on multiple devices, irrefutable and public within the room. Maya stepped forward, organizing her materials with precision, placing them carefully on the conference table. Her calm efficiency contrasted starkly with Sanders' rising agitation. "This documentation is comprehensive, Director Sanders. It represents not only this morning's incident, but the cumulative pattern that has persisted throughout my tenure at Pinnacle Tech Solutions. Any attempt to dismiss this will be noted in full." The Monarch legal officer, a woman whose reputation for meticulous investigation preceded her, opened a sleek leather folder. "Mr. Sanders, the documents we have reviewed include emails, internal communications, and corroborating evidence from staff interviews. These indicate a systemic effort to marginalize employees based on gender and race. How do you respond to that?" Sanders' lips pressed into a thin line. He attempted to summon authority, but the room now recognized the fragility of his position. Every word, every gesture, every smirk he had relied upon was now exposed as hollow, unsubstantiated theatrics. This is an overreach," Sanders blustered. "You're all misconstruing," Nathan interjected, voice calm but cutting. "No misconstruction, Director Sanders. Every detail has been verified, every claim corroborated. The incident this morning is a microcosm of a broader, systemic problem. The time for private admonitions is over." Maya took a measured step forward. "Director Sanders, it's important you understand the gravity of the situation. Continued employment in your current capacity is untenable without immediate remedial action, oversight, and training. Failure to comply exposes the company to legal liability, reputational harm, and operational risk." The executives in the room shifted in their seats, suddenly attentive, realizing the implications. Davis cleared his throat nervously. "This is serious. I had no idea the environment had deteriorated to this extent." "Awareness is the first step," Nathan replied. "Corrective action is next." Maya began detailing her plan, her voice measured, precise, and commanding. She outlined a structured approach: immediate suspension of implicated executives, implementation of diversity and sensitivity training, comprehensive internal audits, and a transparent reporting system to ensure accountability. Every word carried authority, every recommendation rooted in experience, law, and practicality. Sanders' expression darkened further. He opened his mouth, but Nathan's gaze silenced him instantly. Maya continued, advancing slides on her tablet, showing potential cost savings from reduced turnover, improved morale, and innovation retention. The room absorbed her argument with a mix of awe and reluctant respect. By mid-morning, Sanders's position had deteriorated into one of desperate defense. Every attempt to assert dominance was countered by irrefutable evidence, calculated strategy, and the looming authority of monarch global executives. Maya remained the calm epicenter of the storm, her intellect, preparation, and resilience turning humiliation into leverage. Finally, Maya placed the last document, a detailed report of cumulative discriminatory behavior, squarely in front of Sanders. "This is not personal," she said. "This is corporate accountability. Your actions and those of your allies have consequences. It is time to decide whether you will comply or face formal investigation and termination." Sanders' jaw tightened. He looked around the room, seeking allies, but found none willing to meet his gaze. Thompson's silence, Rodriguez's recording, Davis' discomfort, and the unyielding presence of monarch executives made clear that his authority had evaporated. Maya's phone buzzed once more. Nathan monitoring. "Proceed as planned." She exhaled, inwardly noting the precise alignment of every strategic move. The humiliation she had endured, the threats, the gaslighting, all of it had been transformed into undeniable leverage. She straightened, meeting Sanders's gaze with a measured, calm authority. "Director Sanders, your cooperation is required to implement immediate corrective measures. Failure to comply will result in termination, legal review, and reporting to regulatory authorities. This is your opportunity to demonstrate accountability or face the consequences." The room was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. Sanders' usual confidence, the swagger he had carried into countless boardrooms, had collapsed into silence. His face, once flushed with mock superiority, now reflected a grim understanding. He was no longer in control, and in that moment, Maya Williams, having endured deliberate humiliation and systemic discrimination, realized that the boardroom, the very place of her initial undoing, had become her proving ground. Every insult, every spilled coffee, every sneer had culminated in this turning point. Her preparation, resilience, and strategic foresight were now unstoppable forces. The atmosphere in the boardroom shifted palpably as Sanders sank into his chair, defeated and shrinking under the weight of evidence and exposure. Maya's voice, calm yet assertive, continued to resonate, outlining the immediate corrective actions Monarch Global required Pinnacle to implement. Every executive in the room was now painfully aware that this was no longer about a single algorithm, a lone presentation, or even one junior employee. They were witnessing the unmasking of a systemic corporate culture that had tolerated harassment and discrimination for far too long. Maya moved with deliberate precision, distributing her detailed plan for reform. Step 1. Immediate suspension of Sanders and any executives directly implicated in discriminatory behavior. Step 2. Institution of mandatory diversity, equity, and inclusion training, designed not as a perfunctory lecture, but as a structured program with measurable outcomes. Step 3. An independent audit of all internal procedures, promotion practices, and HR reporting channels, ensuring transparency and accountability. Step 4. Implementation of an anonymous reporting system, empowering employees to voice concerns without fear of retaliation. Every recommendation is grounded in legal precedent, best practices in corporate governance, and data-backed analysis, Maya emphasized, her gaze sweeping across the room, locking briefly on Sanders. The cost of inaction, measured in talent attrition, innovation loss, reputational damage, and potential litigation, far outweighs the investment required for reform. CEO Davis cleared his throat, visibly uneasy. "Dr. Williams, these recommendations are extensive and costly." Maya's response was precise, her voice carrying the weight of experience and authority. "Mr. Davis, the cost of continuing with the status quo is already being incurred in hidden ways. Employee turnover, stifled innovation, disengaged teams, and diminished industry reputation are insidious expenses that compound over time. Implementing these reforms proactively will not only prevent further losses, but also create measurable gains in productivity, retention, and market competitiveness. The monarch legal officer interjected with procedural authority. These actions are non-negotiable, Mr. Sanders. You have been formally documented for misconduct, and any delay in implementing reforms will constitute grounds for permanent termination and potential legal action. Sanders' usual smirk faltered, replaced by a tight-lipped tension. His attempts to assert authority were rendered meaningless against the weight of meticulous documentation and legal oversight. Every subtle tactic of intimidation he had relied upon, smirks, microaggressions, gaslighting, was now nullified. Nathan, standing beside Maya with a quiet, commanding presence, added, "This is an opportunity for Pinnacle to rebuild trust, culture, and performance metrics from the inside out. Resistance is futile. Compliance is necessary for corporate survival." As the executives absorbed the reality, Maya returned to her tablet and began presenting a live demonstration of her security algorithm. "While we address culture, let's also address capability," she said. The screen illuminated with detailed projections, network maps, and analytical models. This system has already been tested in a controlled environment, demonstrating a 78% reduction in vulnerabilities while optimizing implementation costs. Thompson, who had previously snickered at her during meetings, now watched in silence, eyebrows raised. Rodriguez, still processing his own complicity, shifted uncomfortably but no longer hid his recording device. The room was captivated not by theatrics, but by irrefutable proof of Maya's expertise and the tangible benefits her work brought to Pinnacle. Maya's voice maintained steady cadence as she walked through each component, explaining the predictive models, anomaly detection protocols, and integration capabilities with existing systems.
She demonstrated how the algorithm could catch zero-day exploits before damage occurred,
a feature that had been dismissed casually by Sanders as over-engineering. Executives leaned forward, scribbling notes, their previous arrogance replaced by the unmistakable awareness of missed opportunities. Nathan watched with quiet satisfaction as Maya navigated the presentation, her composure unwavering even as Sanders attempted to interject. "Technical details are irrelevant if the implementation is flawed," he muttered, a feeble attempt to reclaim authority. Maya's response was precise, measured, and professional. "Director Sanders, implementation is guided by comprehensive integration protocols. The system's design accounts for scalability, redundancy, and employee usability. Concerns about practicality have been addressed during the development phase, validated by multiple independent tests." The executives were visibly impressed. CEO Davis, who had maintained cautious neutrality, nodded slowly. "It's clear that the projections are valid," he admitted. "We underestimated the potential of this solution." Sanders's frustration became palpable, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the polished table. Maya's calm competence was not only undermining his credibility, but systematically dismantling the narrative he had relied on for years, that talent and authority were synonymous with seniority and tenure, rather than merit. Nathan stepped forward, addressing the group with strategic clarity. "The pattern here is instructive. Talent should be nurtured, innovation rewarded, and discrimination eradicated. Ms. Williams has provided both a solution to technical challenges and a framework to correct systemic cultural failings. Resistance to this is not an option." Maya allowed herself a small, controlled nod in acknowledgement, then turned to the group with renewed focus. "We will begin the phased implementation immediately. Departments previously hesitant to report issues will now have access to anonymous channels, backed by Monarch oversight. Training programs will commence next week, and ongoing compliance audits will be performed quarterly, to ensure that policies are followed and improvements sustained. The Monarch Legal Officer distributed binders containing detailed procedural guidelines, ensuring that every executive understood the accountability measures in place. Rodriguez, emboldened by the clarity and oversight, quietly approached Maya. "I want to help," he said. "I recorded evidence, and I want to contribute to reforming the culture here. I regret staying silent before." Maya considered him for a moment, then nodded, her expression firm yet empathetic. "Acknowledging complicity is the first step. Your actions moving forward will determine your contribution to genuine change." In the conference room, the transformation was tangible. Executives who had previously relied on hierarchical intimidation now faced the reality that merit, evidence, and strategic acumen dictated influence. Sanders's defeat was complete. He had no allies, no leverage, and no plausible path to redemption without full compliance and public accountability. Over the next several hours, Maya led detailed workshops with department heads, demonstrating the algorithm, reviewing implementation steps, and instructing teams on ethical reporting and accountability measures. Her calm authority, technical brilliance, and unwavering professionalism commanded respect from every attendee. Executives who had once dismissed her were now listening attentively, asking clarifying questions and taking notes diligently. By late afternoon, the boardroom had transformed from a theater of humiliation to a command center of reform. Sanders, silenced and visibly shaken, observed as his carefully constructed world of intimidation and unchecked authority unraveled before him. Every smirk, every dismissive remark, every belittling gesture had been neutralized by preparation, competence, and the strategic use of evidence. Nathan, observing from the periphery, allowed himself a subtle smile. Maya had orchestrated every step with precision, turning adversity into leverage, humiliation into authority, and discrimination into a catalyst for systemic change. Maya's phone buzzed once more. A brief glance confirmed Nathan was monitoring remotely, ensuring that every action was consistent with the broader corporate reform strategy. With careful attention, she guided the team through final documentation procedures, ensuring that all evidence, reports, and procedural notes were securely logged for future audits and compliance reviews. As the day drew to a close, Maya stood in the center of the conference room, surveying the transformed energy. Staff were engaged, executives attentive, and the previously oppressive atmosphere had lifted, replaced by a sense of cautious optimism and genuine accountability. Sanders remained seated at the periphery, the reality of his downfall now fully internalized. Maya allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction, the culmination of months of preparation, perseverance, and strategic execution. The boardroom, once a place of deliberate humiliation, had become the site of her professional triumph, a testament to resilience, intelligence, and the unassailable power of evidence-backed action. With the Monarch team coordinating next steps, the suspended executives escorted from the room, and the implementation plan in motion, Maya finally exhaled, the tension of the past months easing slightly. She had turned the corporate machinery that had sought to suppress her into a vehicle for systemic reform, ensuring that future employees would not face the same obstacles she had endured. As she gathered her materials and prepared to leave the conference room, a young engineer approached cautiously. "Dr. Williams," she said, voice trembling slightly, "thank you for showing us that it's possible to stand firm, even when the odds are stacked against us." Maya smiled, placing a reassuring hand on the engineer's shoulder. "The change begins with courage, clarity, and preparation. You have the power to continue this work. Today we set the standard, and tomorrow you carry it forward." Outside the conference room, the city skyline gleamed in the late afternoon sun, a fitting backdrop for the transformative events that had unfolded within the building. The winds of corporate change were already sweeping through Pinnacle Tech Solutions, driven by evidence, authority, and the unyielding resolve of one brilliant, resilient woman. The morning sun streamed through the expansive glass walls of Pinnacle Tech Solutions headquarters, illuminating a space that had once been heavy with tension and suppressed ambition. Now the atmosphere buzzed with the energy of transformation. Maya walked briskly through the hallways, her posture impeccable, her confidence unmistakable. Colleagues who had once avoided eye contact now greeted her with genuine respect, their whispers replaced by attentive conversation. The air was filled not with fear, but with anticipation and optimism, a testament to the systematic changes she had implemented. Her first stop was the newly established Innovation Lab, a bright collaborative environment designed to foster creativity and inclusivity. Engineers of diverse backgrounds clustered around holographic displays and interactive dashboards, discussing strategies and breakthroughs with unrestrained enthusiasm. Maya paused, observing the dynamic interchange, and allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. This was her vision realized, talent recognized for merit, innovation thriving without prejudice, and professional excellence cultivated across all levels. Nathan, arriving from Monarch Global Headquarters via video link, appeared on the large screen in the corner of the lab. His voice, calm yet authoritative, carried through the room. Maya, I just received the first quarterly compliance audit. Every department has fully integrated the new reporting systems, and early metrics indicate a 37% increase in cross-department collaboration. The culture transformation is already measurable, Maya responded with quiet pride. Excellent. Let's ensure momentum continues. Employee feedback will remain our guiding metric, and every adjustment will be documented to guarantee sustainability. Her focus was unwavering. The past months of careful planning, resilience under attack, and strategic execution had led to this point. She was no longer fighting for her own recognition, but leading systemic change that would endure. Meanwhile, Director Sanders' downfall continued to ripple through the industry. News outlets reported extensively on his suspension, the ethics investigation, and the recorded evidence of harassment and discrimination. Colleagues who had once feared him now saw him as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that power without accountability was a liability. Sanders attempted to seek employment at various startups, but his reputation preceded him. Every interview ended in polite rejection, often with references to the Monarch Global investigation and the undeniable evidence of his misconduct. The industry was changing, and those who had relied on intimidation found their tactics obsolete. Back inside Pinnacle, Maya convened a leadership meeting to assess ongoing implementation efforts. Projected savings from her security algorithm were already materializing, exceeding the original $12 million estimate by 23% due to optimization refinements and seamless integration with existing systems. Senior engineers, previously hesitant and skeptical, now sought her guidance proactively, their questions insightful, their dedication unwavering. Dr. Williams, a young engineer, spoke, voice tinged with admiration. The new predictive anomaly detection protocols are astonishing. We're seeing zero-day vulnerabilities flagged before they reach production. Your approach has fundamentally changed how we view system security. Maya nodded, maintaining her composed demeanor. This is a team effort. Every insight, every line of code, every test run contributes to the system's robustness. Our success is measured collectively, not individually. The broader industry took notice. Monarch Global's inclusion initiative, spearheaded by Maya and Nathan, began to set new standards for corporate governance. Technology companies nationwide signed on to the program, committing to audits, mentorship, and equitable advancement practices. Public recognition flowed in through media coverage, academic journals, and industry forums. The Monarch standard quickly became synonymous with excellence, inclusivity, and ethical leadership. Maya's efforts extended beyond Pinnacle's walls. She participated in conferences, policy discussions, and educational seminars, advocating for diversity and systemic reform. At a technology ethics summit, she addressed hundreds of executives and industry leaders. Projected behind her, slides illustrated measurable outcomes: increased diversity in leadership by 42%, improved retention rates for underrepresented groups, and higher profitability for companies embracing inclusive practices. Her voice carried authority, clarity, and a sense of moral urgency. Nathan joined her on stage, introducing the Monarch Inclusion Initiative, a comprehensive program designed to transform corporate culture. The initiative's funding, mentorship programs, and assessment protocols created an actionable roadmap for organizations seeking lasting change. Maya's calm, strategic articulation of complex problems and solutions inspired immediate commitment. Companies competed to adopt the standards, understanding that ethical transformation was no longer optional, but a driver of innovation and reputation. Back at Pinnacle, the internal environment had evolved dramatically. Employees no longer feared retaliation or judgment. They were empowered to share ideas, take risks, and innovate without prejudice. Monthly town halls ensured transparency. Quarterly audits tracked cultural adherence, and anonymous reporting channels offered protection and accountability. Maya's security algorithm, once a simple project, had become the flagship product of the company, generating revenue that exceeded expectations while setting benchmarks in cybersecurity excellence. Rodriguez, who had once hidden behind fear, now worked alongside Maya to develop ongoing training modules and compliance reviews. His transformation mirrored that of the organization. Initial hesitation replaced by active engagement and leadership. Maya recognized his contributions, mentoring him in ethical oversight and operational integrity. Acknowledging mistakes and actively contributing to reform is a form of leadership, she told him. Your growth benefits the entire company. Meanwhile, Sanders' final attempts to re-establish credibility met repeated failure. Each rejection reinforced the consequences of unchecked discrimination and exposed the broader industry's shift in expectations. Reports emerged, detailing his former associates distancing themselves from his influence, and his professional network diminished entirely. Maya observed this indirectly, a subtle reminder of the accountability she had helped instill. Months later, Pinnacle's headquarters reflected the full scope of change. The office space, once sterile and intimidating, now fostered collaboration and creativity. Diverse teams worked in open environments, engaged in meaningful discourse, and celebrated innovation without fear of prejudice. The security algorithm continued to evolve under Maya's guidance, now being adopted by 7 additional Fortune 500 companies, each integration showcasing the efficiency and strategic advantage of her approach. The company culture had shifted from compliance-driven enforcement to intrinsic motivation, where ethical behavior and innovation were rewarded equally. Employees expressed gratitude, but Maya remained focused on the long-term vision: sustainability, inclusivity, and excellence. She understood that cultural transformation required vigilance and continuous effort. 1 year after the initial incident, Maya was invited to address a graduating class of computer science students at MIT. Sunlight streamed through the auditorium, illuminating a sea of eager, diverse faces, the very talent pipeline she had fought to protect. Her message was clear. Innovation thrives where diverse perspectives are valued, courage is nurtured, and systems are designed to uphold fairness. She emphasized that standing firm in the face of adversity, as she had done, was essential not only for personal growth but for systemic transformation. Nathan joined her on stage, and together they outlined the next phase of the Monarch Inclusion Initiative: expansion into financial and healthcare sectors, ensuring that principles of accountability, inclusivity, and innovation would spread beyond technology. The audience listened, captivated by their clarity, authority, and vision. Students lined up afterward, eager to ask questions and seek mentorship, inspired by a real-world example of transformative leadership. Maya's journey from a junior software developer facing deliberate humiliation to a respected leader, affecting industry-wide. Change served as a powerful reminder that true authority is rooted in competence, integrity, and perseverance. Her triumph was not only personal but systemic, altering corporate culture, empowering employees, and setting a precedent that discrimination and harassment would no longer be tolerated. In her office, overlooking the city skyline that had once symbolized corporate intimidation, Maya reflected on the journey. Every challenge, every slight, every moment of doubt had been transformed into fuel for strategic action. She smiled as she reviewed reports of Pinnacle's ongoing success, her team's innovations, and the adoption of ethical practices across multiple industries. Nathan, joining her for a brief meeting, noted with satisfaction, "What you've accomplished here will be remembered not just for the technology, but for the standards you set," Maya replied, calm yet resolute. True success is measured by impact. If the next generation can thrive without fear of discrimination, we've done more than win a battle. We've changed the game. As they left the office together, the transformed corporate landscape stretched out before them. Employees collaborated openly, executives engaged responsibly, and innovation thrived unimpeded by bias. Maya's path had been arduous, but the results were undeniable: a culture of excellence, equity, and empowerment. And as the city lights reflected off the glass towers of Pinnacle Tech Solutions, it was clear that Maya's triumph was complete, not just over her adversaries, but over the systemic challenges that had once sought to suppress her. Her vision, executed with skill, integrity, and courage, had reshaped an entire industry, leaving a legacy that would endure far beyond her own career.